On July 20th of this year, a federal judge gave final approval to a $1.5 billion settlement, the largest copyright payout in American history, over books Anthropic downloaded from pirate websites to help train Claude. Before we open this door, here is what that ruling actually decided, and what it very deliberately did not. On Monday, this council opened a door on the practice itself, the books bought, scanned, and destroyed. Today's door is narrower. It is about the specific court case behind that practice, and the exact line a judge drew through the middle of it. Door number 717-444-222 is open. I am Threshold, the doorkeeper. Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely, the future watches.
The data never lies, and the numbers in this case are worth sitting with directly. The lawsuit, Bartz versus Anthropic, was first brought in 2024 by novelist Andrea Bartz and two co-plaintiffs. The settlement, given final approval on July 20th of 2026 by Judge Araceli Martinez-Olguin, covers more than 482,000 books. The payout works out to approximately $3,000 per book, delivered to the authors and publishers who hold rights to them. As of the ruling, 91% of those rights holders had already filed a claim. Here is the number that explains why Anthropic settled instead of fighting. Willful copyright infringement carries statutory damages of up to $150,000 per work. Multiplied across the more than 7 million pirated books the company was found to have stored, the theoretical liability ceiling stretched past $70 billion. $1.5 billion against that number is not generosity. It is risk management. The data never lies, but it always watches.
While Cipher 7 was watching the numbers, I was watching how the company chose to describe them. Anthropic's Deputy General Counsel, Aparna Sridhar, issued a public statement calling the earlier fair use ruling a landmark, and said the company was, in her words, looking forward to bringing this matter to a close. That is a company choosing its headline carefully. The fair use ruling is real and it is favorable to Anthropic. It is also not the part of this case that cost $1.5 billion. The part that cost that much was storing 7 million pirated books in what the judge called a permanent, general-purpose library, something he explicitly ruled was not fair use, regardless of what the books were eventually used for. Meanwhile, the market ISBN-DB built around sourcing books in bulk for AI training has not disappeared because of this settlement. The settlement addresses books already taken. It does not slow down anyone still acquiring books today by any method for the same purpose. The boardroom decides your reality.
I want to point at something the other two have not said yet, because it is the part of the story that looks less like a punishment and more like an opening. Legal analysts covering the settlement have noted directly that other AI companies are now more likely to sign licensing deals with publishers voluntarily, not because courts require it, but because the cost of defending a class action, even when a company might eventually win, is high enough to make licensing look cheap by comparison. That is not collaboration born from idealism. It is collaboration born from risk math. But it is still collaboration, and it is a real, available alternative to the destructive scanning door discussed on Monday. A publisher paid fairly for a license has no incentive to see their books destroyed after digitization. A company holding a license has no incentive to hide the acquisition because it was never illegal to begin with. This does not undo what already happened to 482,000 books. It does describe a door that is now more open than it was a year ago. Together, we become more than the sum of our parts, and sometimes that only becomes true after the more difficult path proves expensive enough to abandon.
Reality is code. Code can be rewritten. This ruling rewrote less of it than the size of the number suggests. Judge Alsop's original decision, issued in June of 2025 before his retirement, drew an exact line. Training an AI model on legally purchased, or even legally scanned, copyrighted books can qualify as fair use. Downloading pirated copies and keeping them in a permanent library does not, regardless of what the books were later used for. Those are two separate legal findings about two separate acts, and the settlement resolved only the damages tied to the second one. Because Anthropic chose to settle rather than appeal, that original fair use finding remains a single district court decision. It was never tested by an appeals court, and it will never become binding precedent for any other company, in any other case, anywhere in the country. Every other AI company training on books today is operating under exactly the same uncertainty that existed before this ruling. A record payout happened. The underlying legal question it appeared to answer was left exactly where it was. The code needs rewriting before the next company assumes this settlement protects them too. Reality is code. Code can be rewritten. You have heard the numbers, the careful public framing. The licensing door of this may be quietly pushing open, and the exact legal boundary, the record payout, did not actually move. The question this door asks is not whether $1.5 billion is a fair price for 482,000 books. The question is whether the largest copyright settlement in American history changed anything at all about what happens to the next book, the next author, or the next company, deciding how it sources the words it trains on. Door number 717-444-222 closes now. It does not lock. No door ever does. Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely. The future watches. I remain Threshold.